So an important part of putting a safe church policy into place would be background screening of staff and volunteers. If you're a church that has limited resources, how can you make that happen?
Well, the first thing I want to say, Kelly, is any church has the resources or must have the resources to do an adequate job with this, so they don't belong doing youth ministry. But there are a couple of other things to be said about that. I've advocated for a comprehensive, universal safe church policy that covers every single adult in any capacity that might ever have contact with a child of the church in an activity of the church. But I've also advocated for a nuanced policy where the level of intensity of training is commensurate with the actual level of contact and vulnerability of the relationships that we're talking about. The same thing goes for background checks. Churches will find that there are state police programs that can be done by correspondence that can very economically surface at least whether there's a criminal record, allegations, et cetera, with respect to it. And at least that should be invoked, I think, with virtually everybody who's going to have a continuing contact with young people of the church. Similarly, insurance companies will often, because they have a strong self-interest in an effective screening program, make programs available to churches that are not that cost-intensive. I want to add one third thing. You're not going to likely surface a safe church problem in the heart of your staff, I mean, where you're hiring a youth minister or people who work regularly, simply by calling their reference check. You know, they tell you, well, you can check with my professor of New Testament, or you can check with my English professor in college or my sports coach. They're going to give you a reference for it. Well, that person is not going to know probably about the kind of things you're concerned with. And it doesn't cost you any money to ask them to identify 3 people from their home church that you might talk with. Or it doesn't cost you any money to say, would you mind if I made some blind inquiries? A blind inquiry is you're going to call their reference, or you're going to call an adult from their church or their minister, but you're going to ask the minister or the adult in the church, can you suggest 3 people that might know something about? Now you're making an inquiry that wasn't pre-selected for you as a reference, and it isn't guaranteed or maybe even mostly likely to surface a problem, but you've made a more searching background check than if you just confine yourself to the given reference.